Welcome to Does It Matter by Brainy Ballers, where we dissect the game with cutting-edge analytics to give you the upper hand. We analyze everything from hand sizes to average depth of targets to uncover hidden trends that no one else sees. Say goodbye to guesswork and hello to data-driven domination. Because here at Brainy Ballers, we don't just watch the game, we understand it. So get ready, it's podcast time.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging into a question that probably sparked quite a few debates in your fantasy league. Does a defensive end's weight actually matter for their performance on the field and, maybe more importantly for us, their fantasy points?
Right. It feels like something you should look at, doesn't it?
Well, we've got some pretty interesting data from a big study to unpack our mission, cut through the noise, give you some clear insights.
Let's do it.
Okay, so the methodology first. How did they actually tackle this?
Well, it was pretty focused. They looked at the top 50 fantasy football defensive ends
Yeah.
every single season since 2003.
Okay, top 50, and just defensive ends.
Yep, specifically excluded defensive tackles, to keep the comparison fair, apples to apples.
Makes sense. And the data itself, weights and stuff.
All sourced from the official NFL Draft Combine results. So, reliable numbers.
Right, and the idea was to find that happy medium, enough players for good data, but still separating the studs from the, well, less successful guys.
Exactly. Avoid weird results from just a few outliers, but still see if the elite players look different.
Gotcha. So what did they find initially? Did the heavier guys dominate?
Well, that's where it gets interesting right away, when they just average the weights for different groups, like top 5, top 10, middle guys, bottom guys. There was no clear trend. Yeah, it kind of flies in the face of common thinking. In fact, get this, the top 5 finishers, they only weighed more than the guys ranked 31st to 50th in 12 out of the 21 seasons.
Only 12 out of 21. That's barely more than half, like 57%.
Exactly, 57.1%. So right off the bat, it makes you question how much weight really influences fantasy success. That whole bigger is better idea. Maybe not so simple.
Okay, wow. That's quite a finding to start with. So conventional wisdom takes a hit, but I think the study didn't stop there, did it? They tried to find like an optimal weight range.
They did.
Do you want to start dominating your drafts? At BrainyBallers.com, we've researched every metric under the sun for you to find which ones are best linked to fantasy points. You can access hundreds of metrics to sharpen your scouting abilities so you know which metrics matter and which are just noise. Stop guessing on which thresholds to look for within each metric. Big numbers can be misleading or irrelevant. Our Ultimate Athlete Blueprints reveal essential scouting metrics, their importance, and benchmarks within each metric that help predict a player's probability of being a success or bust. Elevate your scouting ability with Brainy Ballers Ultimate Athlete Blueprints today. Click the link in the description. Now back to the show.
Since the averages were messy, they thought, okay, maybe there's a specific window where DEs thrive.
Did they find one?
They did find something. By adjusting the range, they landed on 251 to 272 pounds. And players in that specific range, they showed up in the top 10 fantasy finishes 14.0% more often than guys in the bottom 10, so ranks 41 to 50.
Okay, 14% higher appearance rate in the top 10.
Yeah.
That sounds significant, like a real edge if you draft guys in that sweet spot. But you mentioned standard stats earlier. Does this optimal range hold up under more rigorous statistical scrutiny?
Yeah. That's the critical part. Finding a range is one thing, but proving a real statistical link is another. They calculated the Pearson correlation coefficient, basically, a measure of how strongly weight and fantasy points move together.
Okay, the Pearson value, what was it?
Tiny, just 0.0183.
0.0183. That's incredibly low, almost zero.
Exactly. It indicates no significant correlation. Basically, knowing a DE's weight tells you almost nothing predictable about their fantasy score, statistically speaking.
Can you give some context, like compared to something else we know matters in scouting?
Think about QB draft capital, widely seen as important, right? Well, its Pearson value, while negative indicating an inverse relationship, 0.219, much, much stronger than the 0.0183 for DE weight.
Okay, so 0.0183 is basically negligible noise compared to something like draft position for QBs.
Precisely. So it really begs the question, how much does finding an optimal range matter if the overall statistical relationship is just not there?
Right. It might just be a pattern in the noise, not a real signal. So what does this all mean then? Did they look at how this has changed over time too?
They did. They looked at decadal differences. Even that supposed optimal range, the 251, 272 pounds, its ability to predict top performers has actually been decreasing over the last 2 decades. It's a dying trend.
A dying trend. Even the little pattern they found is fading.
That's the takeaway. If you connect all the dots, the lack of trend in averages, the near zero correlation, and the fact that even the optimal range is losing relevance, the conclusion is pretty clear. You should never rely solely on a defensive end's weight for fantasy evaluation.
Don't use weight alone. Standard stats say no correlation, and it's mattering less over time anyway.
Exactly. It's just not a reliable predictor, despite what might seem like common sense.
So this deep dive really throws some cold water on using weight as a key metric for DDs in fantasy. Even finding that optimal range turned out to be, well, less than optimal when you look closer.
It definitely challenges those assumptions.
Okay, so before we wrap up, maybe a final thought to leave everyone with.
Yeah, here's something to chew on. We put so much stock in specific physical measurements in sports weight, height, 40 time, whatever. Given this finding about DE weight, what other metrics that we think are super important might actually be losing their predictive power or maybe never really had it? Especially now, with analytics getting so much better.
That's a great question. Are we sometimes focused on the wrong numbers? Something for all of you to think about.
Definitely something to ponder until our next deep dive.